All right, everybody, this is Dr. Flight, and we are focused on public relations today. One of the challenges for public relations and for nonprofits in general is for the cause and their issue and mission to remain in the public's interest. So oftentimes people become complacent and not really, they don't really recognize necessarily a nonprofit's mission or cause just through apathy and things that really just they take for granted, I guess, would be a good way to think of it. So unless a natural occurrence, for instance, happens, then the attention is often away from a nonprofit or a cause until that spotlight is shined upon. So in other words, think of homelessness, for instance. Homelessness can be brought to the attention of the public every once in a while, and every once in a while the public may feel a deep concern to try to alleviate it. However, more often than not, it's a problem that goes ignored, and folks don't seem to get involved, or they're not energized by a social cause when it becomes kind of an everyday occurrence. So one of the challenges is to build publicity in a way that brings notice to the actual cause that is associated with the nonprofit. So that's what this topic is about today. Take a look, rewind as needed. Let me know if you have any questions. So the focus of nonprofit and nonprofit advertising can be thought of in two different ways. First, you may know that the actual nonprofit wants to bring publicity and awareness to their offer and to the activities and the benefits that they provide specifically. But at the same time, nonprofits need to be advocates for their social cause in more of a generic sense. It'd be kind of like a individual firm being an advocate for their industry. If Nike, for instance, did advertising and did promotional activities to encourage people to wear shoes in general, and then more specifically, they had campaigns for people to wear Nike shoes. That would be kind of these two different levels of publicity or of focus, rather, that has to happen. And in a nonprofit's case, they spend much more time and energy and effort focusing on their social cause as a whole, because that's what they are really they really want to draw attention towards. So that needs to be something that's done. Now, the reality is that the interest of a nonprofit or a social cause grows and wanes and grows over time, rises and falls, just as a natural progression. And there's been some research to suggest that there's a fairly predictable pattern associated with this, kind of growing and shrinking of interest. The beginning of this, and this may be a circular or repetitive type of a process, but stage one, and there are 8 stages, would be a period where there's an inattention to the social problem itself. So the social problem exists, but it's not very much a concern to the general public as a whole. Discovery follows, where individuals or groups, and that may include the media, begin to think about addressing the problem, and nuances of the problem occur, and and in general, we start thinking about the impact of the problem overall. Third, a climbing agenda. What has to happen is for activists and funders, people who would help pay to alleviate the problem, need to be identified, and they need to have some attention raised towards the people who would actually do something to solve the problem and pay for it. Outlining choices is the fourth thing that happens. Analysts and advocates for the problem itself begin to look at data and information. They consider the options on how the social problem may be actually solved. Fifth, courses of action are debated and the discussions focus on how much cost is involved in the efficiency of various solutions. And so we start to think about how we can solve the problem, followed by launching initial interventions. So first wave of solutions are tried and attempted after courses of action are identified. Reassessing and redirecting effort is number 7. So once we have some efforts underway, an opportunity to evaluate those efforts and to determine whether they're beneficial or helpful, or if they need to be changed, can take place. And then success or failure recognition follows. That would be the 8th step. So a determination as to whether solving the problem actually happened or what still needs to be done, even beyond what was done initially to solve the problem. So from an unawareness in the inattention to the problem stage, you go through a pattern where the problem is identified and then becomes an agenda. We find individuals to help fund and advocate for it, and then we evaluate the different solutions to help solve the problem, put those solutions into action, launch interventions, assess, reassess, and then we determine whether the system was the solution was successful or not. So so keep in mind that we want to build awareness for the cause, and as we build awareness for a general cause, our solution is the one that we would ultimately advocate if we're a nonprofit organization and we have a solution that we can offer. Or, so that would be kind of the pattern going forward. Now there are a number, like 8 or 9 different tactics, if you will, that we can engage to get the media and get local public opinion to become aware of and to sway towards our offer or our solutions to particular problems. So we're going to talk about those a little bit, and we'll spend just a second or two on each one. So these would be, in general, referred to as publicity techniques. So this is a public relations effort and ways that we can start to get the attention of the public on the problem and then also advocate for our specific option. So one would be conducting public education campaigns. So developing multifaceted educational programs that help bring along long-term change and awareness towards the cause. So these could include not only formal educational components, but also advertising programs and other long-term programs like that. Framing issues. So framing occurs when a new perspective is provided, which in turn changes an audience's observation of the cause. And we see this actually quite a bit, especially in politics. We think of like pro-life versus pro-choice, and just think about the wording and the phrasing of pro-life versus pro-choice, and how, if you think about how the question is framed, it has different connotations as to how you approach the problem. The term right to work is a term that is used for individuals and groups that want to weaken or take out of play, if you will, organized labor. So some folks feel organized labor is too powerful, too strong, and puts an unfair burden on employers. And so those folks have adopted the legislation that's associated with what they call right to work, and that, of course, is a very kind of positive phrase, especially if you support their side of the issue. But that's a framing issue, a framing technique that's used. Engaging media advocacy is another tactic. So certainly using traditional PR, where you look to have news agencies and reporters actively writing and talking about you. Creating an event and creating buzz that's associated with an event is another PR type of a tactic, public relations thing. Events create energy, excitement, and awareness. So this is oftentimes when we create a story and that story has buzz around it. And so we can create events and that will effectively stir up conversation about our cause. Publishing content. So we can be self-publishers, and as we're self-publishers, we can generate interest for our cause with editorials. If you're an expert and if you have a social media presence, you can write content and post content about your topic, and that will create interest for you. Enlisting celebrity endorsements, getting celebrities and media personalities could help us certainly do that. While I don't know a whole lot about the Kardashians, I do know that they're really popular and they have a lot of people listening to them. And if any one of them starts talking about a social cause, a lot of people will listen. We have sports athletes, so athletes like LeBron James. We have musicians. This happens to be Weezer. And then Taylor Swift is another musician, of course. All of these groups have come out with a variety of different interests that they have wanted to support over time. And every time a celebrity does support a social cause, it raises its awareness. Lobbying. So lobbying is yet another tactic we can use for legislatures and governments where we propose good common sense regulatory changes to help build awareness, but then also help control a social cause or issue. Educational system endeavors. So a lot of times we want to raise a social cause and it's in the public's interest to do so. And so if it's in the public's interest to do so, then it may warrant space and time in the curriculum of a school. Now, we got to be careful. Obviously, just because we feel strongly about a public issue doesn't mean that it's something that all people feel strongly about, nor is it something that we should educate young people for if it's a controversial or particularly political type of a thing. Many people are for and many people are against gun ownership and rights, and other than what's in the Constitution and what the legal topic of the day is, it's pretty hard to be an advocate for or against it in the public school system because that would be viewed as indoctrination to a cause, and we want to educate. So we got to be very, very careful about how we sway public opinion. And we need to be conscientious of multiple perspectives, and that's kind of a key thing too, just in general debate and topics, that we are respectful and responsive to multiple perspectives on a topic, and we have to understand that people may not universally support our position on a social cause, and that they should be free to accept or reject offers of those things that interest us. Finally, the last publicity tactic would be a grassroots tactic. Now, grassroots activism is when we have lots and lots and lots of people who are willing to put small stakes into the game. So people who are willing to donate a little bit of money each, or as opposed to a lot. So, or they're able to maybe on social media just simply repost a post that we've been interested in, or they'd be interested in sharing a like or something like that. Those are low stake, easy to do types of engagement from, and what we're looking to do is do a mass approach where we have lots and lots of people willing to do this, and that groundswell of mass is the grassroots effort that actually changes a lot of agendas. So we see this activism from political parties and such. If you don't have a particularly strong candidate who is a lot of media presence, then what they might do is a grassroots effort where we try to get lots and lots of little individual efforts, and those collectively make a big deal. Okay, so we have like 8 or 9 different publicity tactics that we have available to ourselves. Plus, we have the series of 8 steps that happen to help show the pattern or the cycle of social cause awareness. So in this video, what we're really focusing on is this pattern of organizing a social cause from having no recognition in the marketplace, or no recognition in the public, to one where the problem is discovered, and solutions are identified, launched, and then assessed for success. Finally, we have all these different publicity tactics, or ways that we can build into this particular model to build awareness for our solution and so forth. So we can conduct broad public education campaigns. We can work on framing issues in the minds of the audience. We can certainly use PR techniques with the media, control and create events that create buzz, publish our own content, lobby governments and regulatory agencies. We can tap into the educational system to educate children and folks in school about a specific cause. Remember, educate, don't indoctrinate. That's a very big issue, and it's an ethical one that we need to make sure we're cool with. We can develop grassroots effort campaigns, and then celebrities. Using celebrity influence and popularity is a cool way to get your message across. Okay, so these have been different techniques that can be used to advocate using public relations methods. If you have any questions, let me know. Feel free to rewind and look at any part of this video again. And again, reach out to me if you have any comments or questions. Thanks.